Yeah, feeling good on a Wednesday.
So we're here on January 25th, 2015. Me and Alex, and we got today.
Hi, I'm Elliott. I'm here to talk about the Bills, mostly.
Which is funny since this is our Super Bowl pod, which has nothing to do with the Bills.
Yeah, since the 90s, it hasn't been anything to do with the Bills, but okay. So it's about a week away from the Super Bowl. We've got about a week to digest the matchup, think about it a little bit. I know we disagree on who we think is going to win. Who do you guys think is going to win? Just you guys start out.
Well, I got New England winning. I was very impressed with their last couple of games, especially the game against Baltimore. Coming back twice from down, 2 touchdowns, against a tough defense and an offense that was even performing well, shred them to pieces. Even ignoring the latest controversy, I think they're so well coached, except for Bill Belichick's gaffe at the end of that game, trying to run out the clock with a little bit of time left. You know, he's learned from that. He's been here before. We like to say that a lot on the pod. But he's won 3 Super Bowls, and I think he's coming for his 4th.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I think ever since that game away at the beginning of the season where they got blown out by the Chiefs and everyone was in panic mode, they've just turned it on and have been winning ridiculously. And I just don't think anyone's going to stop them.
Yeah, to come back off that, also, a lot of people said their game after that against Cincinnati was a statement game. But it's one thing to, have your best game of the season. To be able to turn it on like that at will against what was a top defense until then, that was just remarkable. It was just the Patriots showing other teams what they can do. They're a team, unlike a lot in the NFL, that's not afraid to push as hard as they can for that win, even in the first quarter, the second quarter. They're willing to play aggressive, and we saw that's the difference between a Patriots team like this and a Packers team last week that just let their foot off the gas and let their opponent beat them.
Yeah, I mean, the Patriots really, I think, built... I said this in the last pod where I ended up, I guess, being wrong, even though the Ravens, we did give them hell. But I think the Patriots, they're built to beat these pass-first teams, like obviously the Colts are. They haven't had anything close to a good running game this year. I feel like the last couple of years, the Patriots have been loading up to, I guess, counteract what John Fox and Peyton Manning have been doing in Denver, and well, I guess now Andrew Luck and like all these pass first teams that they're ready and they have like the personnel to match up well with these teams, like Brandon Browner and Darrelle Revis. Like they brought those guys in for a reason, and it worked. They've done very well against those teams. They've had a very good record. Where I worry is that I still feel that the run first teams with solid front sevens on defense can still harass Tom Brady, limit their possessions, and run up their own time of possession. And the Seahawks are built the exact same way, and they actually have the secondary and the corners to match up well with the Patriots on defense. So they're just a better version of the Ravens. I can't believe I'm saying that, but so. I'm gonna pick Seattle. I wouldn't be surprised if the Patriots won. I think it's one of the closer Super Bowls, like harder to call Super Bowls that I've ever come across in recent memory. So it'll be great to see how it plays out. I think the first score or two is gonna be really important. Whoever gets up early and can, I guess, maintain it. Just this sounds easy to assume, but they're going to have a better chance to win.
No, I get what you're saying completely. We saw it last year with the Seahawks with the safety score early, and they completely dictated the pace of play against the Broncos team that was shattering all kinds of offensive records during the last season. So I get where you're going with that. I still, I disagree. I think the Patriots defense is better than, say, the numbers they put up. They're willing to play a game that even the Seahawks have done a little more this year, where they'll definitely trade field position for time. You'll see the Seahawks do that a lot in the fourth quarter, like intentionally play a little bit of a softer zone, allow teams to complete passes to just kill the clock. Obviously, they didn't do that against the Packers, and that's what won them the game. They played tough. So the Patriots defense, they're good, even if the numbers don't always reflect how they are, and they're built to play playoff style, and they're built to play how Belichick wants them to play. We saw him bring in Patrick Chung, whose career had somewhat fallen apart after a couple of Pro Bowl appearances, and he's done great. He knows his fit in the scheme. They drafted a guy like Jamie Collins, who they can use to both like rush off the edge, do some run stopping, and most importantly, he can match up with whoever they want in coverage. He's had some huge plays And that's the kind of guy you could see maybe spy on Russell Wilson for a bit, watch that pass to Jermaine Kearse. They like to work on third down. I think that's how the Patriots will work on shutting down Russell Wilson, Marshawn Lynch, now Luke Wilson, who's become a key part of the offense as well.
I mean, I feel like my big X factors here are, can the Patriots slow down Marshawn Lynch? Because their run defense is fine, but it's nothing really impressive. And then, do the Seahawks have an answer for Gronkowski? Because when Gronkowski does what he does, no team can slow down their offense. So I feel like it's whichever one of those two has a better game is going to be the team that wins.
Well, when you bring up Gronkowski, I feel like that Cam Chancellor-Gronkowski matchup is even more important because Cam Chancellor's done a really good job this season. I've been overall just impressed, let alone with his athleticism. Never mind how well he's done in coverage. He's shown to be an athletic freak, which is what you need in the middle of the field when you're covering a guy like a Rob Gronkowski. And obviously we've seen his highlights. He can bounce off 5 tackles and score huge touchdowns. But I mean, I was impressed with him against the Ravens, just how under the radar and well he did. He would have a 10-yard pass for a first down here or a 5-yard pass here. He's just reliable and has the potential to break out for those big 30 or 40-yard touchdown passes. So, yeah, that's probably going to be the most important matchups of Seattle.
Okay, so on a different note, and like we said, not related to the Super Bowl,
But more important.
arguably, we have Elliott here to talk some Bills football.
Well, I can definitely say I was happy with our season, with a winning season for the first time in 10 years. We didn't quite make the playoffs, but, we tried. So then
Good job for trying.
Yeah,
it's better than we usually do. We don't usually
A
try.
for effort.
So I was pretty heartbroken when I found out that our coach decided that he just didn't really feel like coaching anymore. He was just like, oh, yeah, I don't know. I think I'll leave you guys.
One of my favorite examples of just literally taking the money and running. So,
But I'm definitely really excited about the hire of Rex Ryan. It's been so long since we've had a coach who has a history of success versus a history of being terrible, and we're like, oh, maybe he'll be good for us.
I see you making a bit of a sour face, Alex, but I'm gonna have to. I have to agree on this one. He took a Jets team led by Mark Sanchez to 2 AFC Championship games, and those were quality teams. I think Buffalo might have really benefited here from, like you said, Marone just cashing out, and what became a bad fit in New York. I think this is a great hire. This is a high-profile guy, and Buffalo already has a nice defense. Rex Ryan is going to bring in more guys to that defense. People want to play under Rex Ryan. So I love that move for them.
Yeah, I mean, you can see it being a good move. You can say he has a history of success. Like, he went to 2 AFC Championship games in his first 2 years for the Jets, but he took a top 5 defense from those 2 years, and it slowly fell apart over the following 2 or 3 years. It's
Mark Sanchez, Alex.
Yeah, no, but I'm not talking about Mark Sanchez. I'm talking about the defense. The defense was a top 5 defense. People were equating them to the Ravens defenses of like 2010 and 2011. Like they had very good players, plenty of Pro Bowlers on those defenses. I'm not completely sold on him. I'm sold on him as a defensive coordinator. I think he's a great play caller, especially for the Ravens back his span of 2006, I think it was, to when he left in 2010. But where I'm worried is the Bills, I think, really needed an offensive guy. Last podcast, we had my friend Chris on here, and he's a diehard Bills fan also. And him and I were talking about their coaching options. He really expressed to me how not only he, but like most Bills fans, that he felt wanted an offensive guy because this team has just struggled ever since the 90s to get anything near a top 15 offense. And when you year after year can't seem to like put it together on offense, that just becomes something where, as a friend, I can understand as a Ravens fan, it becomes frustrating to get down 10 or 14 points and think to yourself, I don't think we can come back from this, because you just don't know if your offense has it in them. So they really, really needed to get the right hire. Hopefully he brings in a offensive coordinator who can do that for them. But I think after those 4 years with the Jets, you can't get your hopes up.
No, I definitely agree with your concerns about Rex Ryan. I am a little bit disappointed in that I think we had a top 5 defense, and we hired a defensive-minded person, and then immediately fired our defensive coordinator. And I think Jim Schwartz was doing a great job. So having an offensive person would have been nice, but you have to have an offensive team to do that, and there's no one on our offense who is really an NFL player except maybe Sammy Watkins.
It's got to be a little disheartening, even after this year, and I can't believe I'm saying this. It speaks to the Bills a lot, how they are, that it hurts to see Kyle Orton retire rather than play another year.
Well, you guys were talking about Sanchez, and there has also been some talks about potentially Rex Ryan reuniting with Sanchez and bringing him in to coach the Bills to the Super Bowl. So.
Yeah, let's have Smart Sanchez throw the ball around at a cold weather stadium.
You guys laugh, but I don't worry about that too much. I don't think that's too bad. He looked nice with the Eagles. Obviously, he needed a scheme that favored him, but I don't think that's impossible. He has playoff experience, which the Bills are trying to work towards. You could do far worse than Mark Sanchez, and I wouldn't worry too much about the cold weather thing either. We've seen Aaron Rodgers go from Cal, granted Northern California, but he went from Cal to playing in Lambeau, and he adjusted very well. We've seen the Bills who drafted Aaron Maben over Brian Orakpo purely because he was a cold weather player. So I think that's,
Okay, that's not completely fair. That's a cold weather player.
Well, that's why they drafted him.
They specifically drafted him. I can't remember who it was, but we drafted someone who was a warm weather player, and they adapted very poorly. So when it came down to those two players, who I guess were pretty close on their draft boards, they went with the one who went to Penn.
Instead of the one who could bench press 600 pounds.
Well, and that's the point.
Deadlift 600
that was a different administration. Obviously, the Bills are smarter now. So, I don't think...
Yeah, we traded for Sammy Watkins. That was a really good trade, and the organization is just definitely running much better now.
I think when you come to questions of teams like the Bills, and I guess I have to bring up the Raiders, you got to bring up these teams that have kind of been perennial. This sounds like a real asshole move here, but perennial losers for the past.
Like the Raiders have 3 rings. You guys only have 2. So
sure, but for the past 10 years, the Raiders have been they've been irrelevant. What needs to happen with these teams is you need a guy. Well, I guess Rex Ryan could be this guy who comes in and establishes an identity and a philosophy from day one, sticks to it from day one, and never lets anyone really question what the identity and philosophy of that team is going to be. And if that's going to be play tough defense, run the ball a lot, and win low-scoring games, then so be it. That's your identity. Stick to it. But if that's the case, then they need to really bulk up on running back and offensive line in this draft. They don't have the personnel to do it right now.
That's a reasonable thing to say, but I wouldn't, even as much as I love my team, lump the Bills in with the Raiders. I think that's unfair to the Bills. They've been poor, but they've never had the state of just pure dysfunction that the Raiders have been in for the last 10 years. And they just got bought by Terry Pegula, who bought the Sabres as well, I believe. He put $1 billion into this franchise. Now he has his guy coaching the team, and he was hands-on in the process. And I think it's a good thing for Buffalo. I think he's willing. He understands it's a long-term investment. That's how he's always run things. He's willing to work with Rex Ryan. If they have a few down years, I don't think he's going to have to worry about his job. Doesn't have to worry about the New York City media. And that's going to benefit the team in growing. I think they have a decent foundation. They might run again with E.J. Manuel this year, give him another chance. If not, I'm sure they're willing to invest another pick in quarterback and make that team work. You guys seem set on the defensive side of the ball. A lot of talk has been this week, C.J. Spiller gone. And the thing is, if we'd been having this conversation 1 year ago, 2 years ago, that would be a lot more detrimental to the team. I don't think you'd see that as a huge loss now.
I really don't know what happened to him over the past couple of years, but he has dropped off tremendously, and he's not a huge issue for me. I think it's more important to possibly bring back Jerry Hughes. He'll demand a lot of money, but he's definitely developed into a great pass rusher. If he could avoid drawing 2 to 3 flags a game, that would be nice. And you also have to remember that we lost Kiko Alonso before the season even started. He was
the defensive rookie of the year last year, I believe, right?
I think he might have lost to the Jets guy.
That's fine. Go ahead.
I don't know.
He had 3 picks against the Ravens. I remember that.
He's a hell of a player, that's for sure. Definitely all-pro caliber already.
Yeah.
But I think with the Bills, you can say they're in a state of dysfunction when you haven't made the playoffs since 1999.
I would say we're really splitting hairs here. I think it's more of a culture of losing, as you were saying, the team's culture, than, pure dysfunction. You don't see too much drama around the Bills, even maybe this season now with Marone leaving and whatnot. But to have a guy like Rex Ryan willingly come in and take that job, I think the Bills are in a much better place than a lot of other teams. They're not, say, like, you see a team like the Bengals make the playoffs every year. And I'd argue I'd rather be in the situation where the Bills are looking to grow, not just stagnant, and happy to just be that treadmill team that gets bounced in the first round. The Bengals are at where they're going to be. They're committed at QB with Andy Dalton. I'm sure the Bills could find someone better who makes that team much better than, say, the Bengals and has a lot more room to grow.
We've been waiting to grow for quite a while. I seem to remember
15 years of growth.
We've got Drew Bledsoe. He's going to lead us to the playoffs. Never mind. We've got J.P. Lossman. He's going to lead us to the playoffs. Oh, we've got Trent Edwards. He's going to lead us to the playoffs. So just year after year after year, it's just our expectations are always high. Maybe we're not right there. 2 years we'll make the playoffs, and it's been like that for 15 years at this point.
The thing is this: I don't think you can purely judge a team off their record. Like, the Bills were not, by any stretch of the imagination, a great team this year, even with their winning record. And on the other hand, if they drop to 7-9, they may still be a better football team next year with a losing record than they were this year at 9-7. So growth, I don't think, always comes in the term of like wins. In the 2 or 3 years, yeah, you expect those wins to be there in the playoffs to show for it. But I don't think regressing. They stole a win over the Vikings this year. Those kind of games make a team seem maybe better than they are. So people could be misled.
And obviously, we finished the season with a win against the Patriots, second and third string.
Right.
So we're definitely not a 9-7 team this year.
Well, with the Patriots having dominated that division for 12 straight years or something like that, you got to think Rex Ryan's philosophy and like everyone in the front office of that franchise, and even with the Jets and Dolphins, is just thinking, let's just not have too many misses in these next couple of drafts, and let's just load up for the inevitable end of that Tom Brady era in New England. Because, obviously the Patriots draft well, but that's got to end sometime in the next 3 or 4 years. And so I think the Bills, this is an important time for them with this hire to draft right these next couple of years and just sit and bide their time and take the opportunity when it comes the Patriots finally fall off a little bit.
Absolutely. You guys don't have your first round pick this year because that was in the Sammy Watkins trade.
Doesn't matter.
So,
doesn't matter.
Right. They need to pick well.
You can do well regardless
from the
of
seventh.
first round
We've
picks.
seen a lot of teams do that. Build the first round is at most going to be 15% of your guys on your roster. That's it. So we've seen, like you said, it doesn't matter. With a good brain trust, of course, with the Ravens, getting those middle round guys is far more important than nailing that first round pick.
I'd say rounds 2 through 4, the most important rounds of the draft. You may get in more trouble for trading up and missing on a big wide receiver or something like that. But if you miss on multiple second, third, and fourth round picks, that's less forgivable to me.
The Bills on both sides of the ball. You've seen a guy like Robert Woods, Kiko Alonso, both middle round guys, if I'm right on that one.
Yes, that's good.
And they've been impact guys. The Bills actually, that's why I think that quarterback situation is so important. Have a decent core of receivers. Besides Sammy Watkins, they have Robert Woods, who's a real nice receiver. They even have coming out of the backfield Fred Jackson, who I have criticized for a while, but at 34, he still put up 66 receptions. It's 4 receptions a game coming out of the backfield, and a guy who will always fight for those yards. That's a nice offense for a quarterback who needs the right situation to work his way into. I'm sure Mark Sanchez would love to play there, and I'm sure the Bills have their sights set higher, but we'll see what they do.
Or just got my fingers crossed. We'll see.
What are your thoughts on a guy like Kirk Cousins? Or any quarterback along the lines of, I'm trying to think. I'm trying to come up with someone off the top of my head.
Jake
right
Locker,
now.
who's going to be a free agent.
Right. Obviously, I feel like it gives you more time as a coach or a GM to draft someone in like early rounds.
I think we already have EJ Manuel, who's at that middle level. I don't think there's anyone available who steps above EJ, and he has some really good athleticism, and he's shown some flashes that maybe he can be an NFL quarterback. So I would like to see us stick with him for another year or two, and then if he doesn't work out, find someone top of the draft to be our long-time starter.
All right, so I guess to wrap up this Bills segment, if I were to ask you right now, put you on the spot, who is your ideal free agent signing? Who would you go with?
Well, I definitely think that since Darrelle Revis' contract is going to be voided at the end of the year, that I think Rex Ryan would love to add him back to the team, and I think that would really, really help our secondary, which has been okay, but I think it would take it to the next level and make it a really, really scary defense to play against. Offensively, there's not really anyone who I would be dying to get. Maybe if Marshawn Lynch decides to opt out of his contract, we can bring him back. But definitely either Revis and re-signing Jerry Hughes would be my top two priorities.
It's not a bad position to be in where your big move would be bringing your guy back. I know a lot of the talk was, too, we even thought losing Jarris Bird would really hurt that defense, and they've only gotten better without him. That looked to be somewhat of a bust of a signing, even though he got hurt. That's a lost year, and the Bills saved a lot of money on one of the most overpaid, sometimes, positions in football.
It's true. That was a good no sign.
All right, so, Elliott, while we got you here, I know you're wearing your Raptors shirt. You made it a clear statement you want to talk about Toronto, so let's talk Toronto.
Well, first, I guess I just need to give a quick shout out to Kyle Lowry, who made his first All-Star appearance and first All-Star start.
He's definitely going to hear this.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, we're saying he said shout out.
Oh, no, he might. You guys are pretty popular, right?
We're upcoming.
So I'm definitely happy about that. I even watching him play all year long, I was not quite as sold on him as I know Sanjay was, but I think I was watching a game yesterday where he had 4 points up until the fourth quarter, and I said, how is this guy an all-star? And immediately after I said that, he scored our next 13 points and led us to victory, so that's pretty good.
He's such a valuable guy to have. We're in an era where there are lots of good point guards, and he still stands out to me as one of the best. I know Alex is going to kill me as soon as I say this, but if I had today an Eastern Conference MVP vote to give out, which isn't even a real award, and I certainly wouldn't be credentialed, it would easily go to Kyle Lowry, who has just outperformed John Wall this season.
No.
Here we go.
In no way, shape, or form is he... Okay, whatever. You go ahead. I'll let you finish.
I think it's just his value, even when off the ball, is so much more to his team than John Wall is. And I know you're killing me for saying this, but even on charges, one of the most important plays, a 4-point swing in basketball. Kyle Lowry, you can speak to how efficient.
I'm fairly certain he led the league in offensive fouls taken by by somewhere around 20 fouls last season.
Okay, so he's the MVP.
Well, let's over a season, 80 points, 1 point a game can swing so much. I know it sounds simple, 1 point a game. How many games have we seen where that's a deciding factor, where a team has to launch a three? The value of 1 point of a charge can't be understated like that. And I know we differ on this. I love the analytics side of the game, and you believe more what you can see is important. And I think there's arguments. The eye test. Yeah. There's arguments to be had for both, but I think the analytics have shown too. Kyle Lowry is much more valuable independently and to his team. Okay, so again, to throw some wood on this fire that you two are about to go at on.
You were saying something.
Kyle Lowry. Yeah, Kyle Lowry is just a more valuable player than John Wall, and the numbers speak for themselves. He's been worth, through this point in the season, already a full win over him. He's a much better offensive player. Obviously, I don't think there's any debate there. And the defensive difference it's close. So overall, Lowry's just shown himself to be more important.
I'm gonna let Alex give his counter argument first.
Okay. All right. Okay. I don't want to make it seem like I don't like Kyle Lowry, because I think he's a great player. I would every time I look at him and think of his game, I think of it as like a damn pit bull. He's just determined as hell, short, stocky, but just feisty as hell. And you can tell that people are just exhausted playing against him when they're matched up with him. I love his potential as a tweener sort of shooting guard. Sorry, combo guard is the right terminology. He's a great combo guard, and he's proven that in previous stints in Houston and places like that. But where I just don't think it's close is the fact that Toronto is just so deep on the wing already. They've got guys they can plug in. They go about 5 deep on the wing positions, maybe even 6. obviously, like Lowry, DeRozan is your starting front backcourt. They've got Vasquez coming off the bench, and what's his name, Lou Williams, who's had like a month-long stretch where I think he won Eastern Conference Player of the Week a couple of times.
He won Eastern Conference Player of the Month for December, I think, or November.
He's a very, very like high-quality scoring guard. Vasquez led the league in assists like one year, was maybe second before he was traded to Sacramento. I just think MVP, when you're talking about that, who's the more valuable player to their team? You take Kyle Lowry off that team and you put him on the Wizards. You take John Wall off his team and put him on the Raptors. They're a better team with John Wall, and the Wizards are a worse team with Kyle Lowry. Because John Wall is the primary, and I mean primary ball handler. Bradley Beal takes some of the ball handling minutes away from him, but John Wall just makes so much happen for the Wizards.
I respectfully disagree with one of your points, just one, which is the swapping guys thing. Because I think if I said like take Flacco, put him on the Bucks, that's the worst sport. Sure, but that test isn't really.
This is basketball.
Applicable. Okay, but you could do that with a lot. You could do that with a lot of players. You move LeBron to a bad team, and they might actually not fit around him. Some teams are that dysfunctional. Obviously, we're talking about 2 playoff teams, but I don't think that's an applicable test in every situation.
Yeah, I think one of the best things about watching the Wizards is the John Wall drive and then the dish to Bradley Beal, which works so well for the Wizards. And the Raptors don't have that ability, so you can't do a straight swap. I think John Wall is very, very good, but Lowry, I think, is better offensively. He's an insane rebounder for someone his size.
As John Wall.
He's more willing to go after those offensive boards when someone misses and then you've got 3 big men all around the ball and suddenly this little Kyle Lowry jumps up and out rebounds all of them. It's just he provides so much to the team that I don't think he's replaceable on our team. And when DeRozan was down for 20 plus games, Kyle Lowry is having to carry the load of that team. Like we're very deep. But there was no number 2 option on that team. It was Kyle Lowry's team and a bunch of role players, and we weren't
that's
great.
Not true. They had an all-star DeMar DeRozan last year, so you can't say that there were no other options.
No, when he was injured.
Yeah,
when he was injured. Who was injured? DeRozan was
injured for 20 games.
They had Terrence Ross, Lou Williams.
Terrence Ross is an awful basketball player. We're talking about
badly.
this.
He's been playing badly this year, but he's still a pretty solid 3-point shooter, and he stretches the floor pretty well.
You were saying he's been shooting under 30%?
Maybe for the last month or so, but earlier in the season, I remember Terrence Ross killing a couple of teams.
Ross upsets me just because, and I hate to cut you off, but I saw him play a lot of college ball, and he was a good defensive player, and he has become a worse defender, not just against the higher competition in general. He has lost a lot of what made him a good defender. I consider him somewhat of a net negative on your team. What do you?
He looks totally lost on most defensive sets, and I really don't know why. We've basically been telling him, you've got 2 things. Be a 3-and-D guy. Play defense, spot up for those threes, occasionally maybe drive to the basket if your three's not falling. And he looks confused doing all 3 of those things. And that's not a whole lot of things to be responsible for.
I mean, you forget he's still kind of a young player. He's like in this, 3rd year?
That's
3rd or 4th, yeah.
Something like that. He came out pretty early, if I remember correctly. I feel like he's a player whose game is very, very similar to DeRozan's, and if he was in if he was given a similar role to DeRozan, he'd probably flourish. He has the quality to be a starting guy in the league, and you guys have 3 bench guys you can say would start for other teams. Well, the Wizards have no one like that.
I'm glad that no one brought up the name Landry Fields here because
he's been irrelevant.
We know you love. I was about to say the phrase "relevant basketball moments."
So irrelevant.
But I mean, just I guess to put a wrap on this thing, we're definitely going to see this debate continue. Hopefully, in the playoffs. I know this is a series a lot of people, you two included, would love to see contested over 7 games.
I wouldn't like to see it because you guys are going to say this makes my whole argument moot, but I just feel like we've shown that the Wizards just don't match up with the Raptors very well.
I wouldn't say that your argument is moot because it was more about point guards than
right. Right. But for some reason, it seems like an easy fix for us because I think we have the better front court depth. We obviously with Benet and Gortat, and they showed that they could dominate the Bulls last year, who had just as good of a front court. But for some reason, when we play the Raptors, the Raptors' wings just limit what John Wall and Bradley Beal can do. so much that they can't really get a chance to really feed the bigs well enough. And maybe that's a knock on Wall, but I think we obviously have a chance to beat the Raptors, but it wouldn't be my dream matchup.
I think my one last thing to bring the Lowry Wall argument is that every time the Raptors and Wizards play, Wall has a terrible game. I think when they have a head-to-head matchup, something about Kyle Lowry's style really limits John Wall. I've been to a couple games in person, and I believe over the course of those games, he's probably been shooting 10% in those games, and it's pretty fun to watch.
Yeah, I mean, he hasn't quite figured out Kyle Lowry yet, so. But I'd like to see Kyle Lowry win a playoff series first before I say he's better than John Wall.
Well, I guess you've got me there.
Well, on that note, so you guys don't actually fight before the Royal Rumble, I think we'll leave you guys tonight. Thanks for listening to it. We hope to have Elliott back, and like we said before, just hit us up on Twitter, on Facebook, text, call us if you want to be on this. We love talking anything. We just spent time talking the Bills today, so thank you all for listening. Have a great night.